Welcome to this week's episode of Listen to Your Coaches. I'm your coach, Mike Wilkins, here with Coach Will Morrill. Today, we're going to have a fun episode. This will be our second version of this style of episode. It was a fan favorite back when we did it the first time. I wasn't aware the first time. We're a little bit aware this time, but we don't know the bulk of it. This episode is to be titled Don't Tell Will. All right? So, the way the Don't Tell episodes work, we make a group or we send out messages to a handful of people to give us some questions that they would like to ask, Will on the podcast. So, I reached out to a handful of people, got some questions, thinking that maybe I should have reached out for more, but that's okay because I plan on doing way more don't tells, so we'll see how it goes. So these are questions Will has no idea about. He's on the spot answering them. And yeah, I think that explains it.
Absolutely.
Let's get it going. All right. So we are going to start off. Some of these questions may be a little bit, if they're too in the weeds or you need to be in the know, maybe we'll provide some background context, but we'll try not to go into too deep on that. Let's start off with this one. Okay, so from Brian Mitchell. What is your best Frankenstein MMA fighter? Three subjects. Who's strike to make it a little easier, don't have to worry about who's cardio and stuff. We're just going to go with who's striking are you using, who's wrestling are you using, and who's jiu-jitsu are you using.
So when you're saying Frankenstein MMA fighter, you're saying just doesn't go away?
You're Dr. Frankenstein.
Oh, and I get to choose these attributes.
You're Dr. Frankenstein. And you're going to build the monster.
Got you. Okay, and it's striking, wrestling, and jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, we're just going to run those three just to keep it a little simple.
Whew, okay. Striking, I'm going to go O'Malley.
Okay.
Wrestling, for MMA, right?
This is for MMA. You're building an MMA fighter. You're Dr. Frankenstein.
Wrestling, I'm going to go... Ooh. It's between GSP and John Jones. I think I'm going to go Jones.
Okay.
Yeah. And then jiu-jitsu, best MMA jiu-jitsu. Man, I'm torn between a couple. My first thoughts are...
And you should be.
Oliveira, Verdum, and Maya.
Okay. I'm going to say that you're wrong, and you're wrong. But it's your opinion. It's your opinion.
I feel very strongly about... there's only a handful of MMA strikers that I would even consider being...
Oh, yeah. And that makes sense that you would have a better handle on your striker than you would your...
For me, it's either... Striking, it's either going to be Adesanya, O'Malley, or maybe Poatan.
Maybe Anderson?
Maybe Anderson. I mean, are we talking modern era? I'm not sure his style would necessarily...
Yeah, you're going to build somebody right now.
Yeah, I'm going to go best modern era MMA striking, I think, is O'Malley. Best wrestling, I still think it's John Jones. And you know what's crazy? I'm still between Jones or GSP, even in modern era.
Oh, I would be too.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think I'm going to stick with Jones. So I'm going to go O'Malley, Jones, and then for jiu-jitsu, I'm either between Oliveira, Verdum, and Maya.
You wouldn't consider Habib?
I kind of consider the way he does jiu-jitsu
if you're
wrestling.
And again, okay, let's just call it grappling instead of jiu-jitsu. Maybe I shouldn't use jiu-jitsu because then it's he's doing...
We're talking about ground grappling,
yeah,
not
ground for MMA, yeah.
Then it might be Khabib.
I just never seen anybody control anybody more.
And I was going to say...
there's been some higher level, fancier jiu-jitsu
technically,
things,
but in terms of effectiveness for MMA... Yeah, his lower body grappling is just phenomenal. Yeah, you know what? You might have swayed me over. I'm going Khabib then, because I was kind of reading that the wrong way, I guess, taking his wrestling, not really calling his jiu-jitsu because it's so wrestling heavy. But yeah, that's my answer.
All right,
O'Malley, Jones, Khabib.
I think that's a great one. That kind of does lead us in. So I don't have a specific order. I'm just gonna
bounce around. Yeah, make it fun.
But that does kind of lead us into a question from James Padmore.
Ooh.
In your unbiased opinion, when everything is said and done, who will be the middleweight GOAT, Anderson or Izzy?
Oh, in my totally biased opinion, this is so hard. Okay, so I grew up on Anderson. Anderson's my favorite, UFC fighter of all time.
This is a good question.
Probably my current favorite, or my current my favorite current fighter, active fighter, is probably Izzy. Oh man, that's so difficult. So accolades wise, Anderson did more, right? He had that crazy reign. He had success going up in weight classes. It was a different era. You know what I mean?
But Izzy's not done.
Izzy's not done, and also Izzy won their head-to-head.
Yeah, but when you're doing head-to-heads against era versus eras,
yeah, it obviously doesn't always line up. I think that accomplishing what Adesanya has done in this era is more difficult. Maybe not. I don't know. That's a really tough one. I'm gonna
gun to your head. Spit it out. Spit it out.
In 20
Spit
years,
it out.
who's gonna be thought of as the
spit it out?
Going Izzy?
Boom.
I can't believe I said that.
Wow, I can't believe you said that. That's crazy.
I take it back.
I'm so disappointed. All right, that was a really great question. So let's move on to this because we kind of. I mean, I guess like we're probably going to be around the striking pretty much the whole time, but this one's
I
kind of
love grappling too.
Oh, I know that. This one's kind of running to me here. So a question from Maximilian Gerald. Who are the active fighters who best exemplify your heavy emphasis on positional striking?
I think who we already discussed, Sean O'Malley, Israel Adesanya. I would throw Poatan, especially when it comes to...
So let's freeze there. He did ask for the 3. I took 3 away because I didn't I just wanted the freedom.
Yeah, I feel you. Okay, so definitely Sean and Izzy. Some other guys you could probably toss up there. Corey Sandhagen is kind of switching from what we in our gym call a Gen 2 stance switcher to a Gen 3 stance switcher. He's starting to get there. And I like the way that guy thinks, so maybe I'm a little biased there. I'm trying to think about also positionally. Oh man, that's a good question. I mean,
well, I think
one and 2 are right there, and then I think at 3 you have kind of like a mix of guys.
All right, well here goes one. Who are some fighters, active fighters who do not emphasize this but yet still have high level success?
Oh, current guys?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I would say, let's look at some champs. I would say Dreykus is not the most positionally advanced striker that we've seen, and he's a champion. I think that there's a lot of heavyweights who, don't understand striking positions. Even guys who have been champions. I love Francis, a big fan, love his story. Not sure he understands position the way that, I would like our fighters to understand it. Maybe he does. I don't know. I don't want to come off as a hater here, but it comes out less, I guess, in his fights, that understanding of position. Who else? See, the problem is I keep going back to when we were coming up and who I was fans of then, because
yeah.
I don't want to say I'm still a massive fan of the sport, but when I was in the 2000s, I was a huge
way
fan,
deeper
you know
fan.
what I mean?
Yeah,
partially
way
because you're a
deeper fan.
kid, and partially just because of the era, and so
and the time you have.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I could watch
I don't
fights
have time.
forever.
I don't have time to be that big of a fan anymore.
Yeah,
right?
if I miss a fight, I probably just missed it.
Dude,
you know
right?
what I mean?
I'd be watching fights during the day.
Yeah.
Now, dude, I can't watch fights. Blippi's on. We're watching Bluey. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah. So I keep going back to some of the the old era, but for modern guys, there's a lot of guys who aren't super successful that I think pretty much ignore positioning. And I don't really want to give some names of guys who really ignore positioning and still do well, because I think that's kind of disrespectful. But just know that there's a lot of guys who have been around the UFC for a long period of time who are very athletic. They have good timing, but they don't necessarily understand position when it comes to stand-up fighting.
Okay. Yeah.
I hope that's an acceptable answer.
I accept it. All right. So let's jump to a question from Nate Dufresne. Let's see. He wants to know, that's kind of for both of us, but let's do it. Where do we record this podcast?
Great questions. In LTYC Studios.
LTYC Studios, yeah, owned and operated by Will Morrill, in his house.
Yeah.
Upstairs.
Yeah. So we're upstairs in my house, and everything that you can't see on camera is just an office.
Yeah. If we were to turn the camera the other way around, I mean, other than having a TV hanging, it's just like looks like anybody's like office. Yeah. We kind of like built this over a very long period of time.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. Well, not only did we build it, hold on, we can dive into this a little bit. Not only did we build this space out, so first off, like I moved into this house, like a year and change, almost 2 years ago?
Dude, I don't know.
Something like that. Somewhere like that. And this room was just like blank slate. No floor.
No flooring. Like
paint was all screwy.
It was just empty room.
Yeah. I don't think the light even worked, right? Or maybe it did. It doesn't really matter.
We had one of those hanging,
right,
like temp lights.
So Mike and I got in here. We painted the whole thing. Mike threw a track light up there so we can like kind of adjust it a little bit, even though we're so amateur when it comes to like podcast production.
Yeah, but it's okay.
Well, we'll get there. We're working on things.
We're new.
Yeah, we are. I'm gonna have a little chunk of time soon that I can dedicate. Hopefully, fix a couple things. But
put the flooring in.
Yeah, we put the flooring in super fast, by the way. So
dude, go ahead, tell it real quick.
Mike and I, we start putting the flooring in. Right, we're just like slapping down LVT. There's a little balcony like right outside this door, and we set up a table saw there.
Because it's outside.
So so we're zipping up pieces, boom, we're going, and we're going in like a decent clip, but nothing crazy. And I was like, hey, Mike, we're gonna be here all afternoon. Let me go downstairs. I'm gonna make some Sammys.
Will makes really good sandwiches, like next level.
I'm pretty good at making sandwiches, so I'm like, hey, dude, let me go downstairs. We just got some fresh bread. Make some Sammys. We'll be all good. I go downstairs. I'm making sandwiches for like 15-20 minutes. I'm like, yo, Mike, we're about done. I come up to tell him the sandwiches are done. There's like 2 rows left of flooring. He did like 70% of it in that 15 seconds. Like, you were like, I just had to get going. And then boom, 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 slap
honestly, I just needed you to get out of my way.
I was holding us back.
I was like, you gotta go, dude.
So anyway, so we built out this room, and originally we had this cool idea where like, it wasn't going to be as symmetrical as it is
like
right now.
Like the chairs, yeah. There was going to be a command center.
Yeah, a command center. There was we have a big L-shaped desk. My wife uses it now out there. And then Mike was going to have like a comfy chair out here because like that also works with like the flow of the show, right?
It was going to look more like host and guest kind of.
Right. And the idea is, and also something that we changed in that layout, I was going to be on that side in the command center and Mike was going to be on this side. But if you think about it, most, at least Americans, look at things left to right. And maybe you guys noticed from the intro of our pods, but like Mike is the driving force of the show, right? Like he's definitely like he's the A side, right? He's the red corner. And like that, you'll see that in our coaching styles. You see that in pretty much all that we do, right? And so it didn't make sense for me to be in this massive thing that took up like 70% of the visual space.
Yeah.
And then for you to be over here, not to mention Mike's chair was like significantly lower than mine, and I'm also pretty tall.
Also way taller. Yeah.
So then,
we're like 5 inches difference in height.
So then
even
when
we're
sitting
standing
down
around each other, like I feel like we're the same height.
I know, me too. And then so like we looked at it on camera and it just looks so stupid. And we took like 8 months to build that out.
Dude, so it took forever.
We went and picked up this desk.
I can't pull it up now, but when we came up with the idea of listening to your coaches, Will started to Google. He's super organized. That's definitely one of his strengths. He keeps us all organized all together. So we started this Google Doc, right? And it was like our brainstorming one to start, and then like plans formed on it and stuff like that. The Google Doc was started for the podcast in August of 2022. We filmed our first episode in like September or October of 2023.
The first one that went out?
Yeah. When did it, like,
I don't know,
might even been October.
I think it was October, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're like 20 weeks in.
Yeah.
Dude, it might have been December. Dude, but here goes the thing.
It might have been. And
like,
dude, this wasn't even in the way it was now. Dude, we didn't have pictures in the frames.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh man, it was quite a circle around. Like we were talking about it, and I would tell people.
Yeah.
I'd be like, me and Will are starting a podcast. And then it'd be like a year later, and they'd be like, oh, you guys are still doing that? I'm like, yeah, dude, we're building the studio.
So we built it all out. We had it finished. We had like a lot of this stuff you see here, like hung up on this wall, and it was going to be a big giant desk. Maybe we'll put some pictures up, and then like kind of like chair, kind of like this. And then we recorded like 1 or 2 pilot episodes, and we were like, nah.
No.
So pulled everything off the walls, patched and painted the walls. We, found these My wife, luckily, is like really, really good at like visual stuff, and she designed a lot of like what you guys see now, and helped us pick out, you know, the shelves and the color that we stained this, and then, you know, we installed all of this, and she found this table at, you know, some estate sale.
That's why,
or
like,
something.
if you look back to earlier episodes, this wasn't there.
Oh, this is going to keep evolving for however long we do the podcast for, you know, like,
Yeah.
we're going to, and some of these things too, like,
I mean, hopefully one day we're not in here. Hopefully,
yeah.
hopefully one day we're in like a real studio.
But also some of these things are like designed to just be placeholders and get switched when we find new cool
Find something
things.
cooler,
You know what
yeah.
I mean? So like, yeah, no, it's definitely been a long time coming.
Dude.
But to answer the question, yeah, we're just chilling in the upstairs in my house.
Okay. Well, that was good. That was a good question. Appreciate that one from Nate. All right, so let's run to one from Brittney. So Brittney asks, "What is your go-to karaoke song?"
Brother, we were just talking about this. Oh man, there's some great answers here. Big fan of karaoke. I have a terrible singing voice, but that doesn't matter. It's just about how much fun you have. So, my boy Chris and I. Oh, dude, I got a great story to talk about.
Run it.
Chris. Okay, so the short answer is "Disease" by Matchbox 20, and what's that song by Lit? Worst Enemy or something.
Wrong person, dude.
No surprise to me, I am a
No,
worst
worst
enemy.
enemy.
Yeah, see, everyone who's our age
But
is like,
every now and then I
yeah,
kick the living
exactly.
shit out of me.
That's a great one. Anything that's like from that era, Blink 182, Third Eye Blind.
Yeah, okay.
Anything like that's gonna be great. But those are a couple bangers.
You know what? Maybe I could get in. I was just telling
You
Will.
totally could.
I was telling Will, I was like, I've never done karaoke and I'll never do it. But I'm kind of feeling like it now.
You gotta do it with the right people, dude.
Yeah.
You, me, and Chris will go to K-Box sometime. It's gonna be a great time. So Chris and I, my boy Chris, right? We talk about him a fair amount. You know, Chris and I have been best friends for 27 years now.
Yeah.
And when we were in college, we were at was it Boots? Yeah, I think we were at Boots, which is a crappy little bar in South Oakland. And we're doing karaoke. Our song comes up. I think it was probably Disease. We get up. There's like, you know, multiple mics up there. We're singing it. And then the next song comes on. And I forget what it was, but it was like kind of a good song. And Chris is like, dude, no one's coming up. Let's take this one too. And I was like, all right. So we started singing and the mics aren't working. And someone's still singing. And I'm like, what's going on? We turn around. Dude, the DJ had one of these mics and it was his song. Bro, I just like melted. I put the mic down and I just like walked off stage. Dude,
Dude, the secondhand embarrassment I'm feeling right now.
check this out.
Hurts, dude.
Chris didn't
Did it.
move at all. Didn't care in the slightest. Just singing his heart out into this dead mic. It was hilarious. What a Chris move.
That is a Chris move.
Shout out
That's
to
good.
Pogal.
Shout out. So, running off that same theme, Brody asks, if you had to sing a song to everyone at the end of every fundamentals class, which would you sing and why?
Oh, God. At the end of every Fundies class?
Yeah, you had to sing a song.
Oh.
What song would you sing and why would you sing it?
It's got to be something short because I've
Brody,
got a
great
terrible,
question.
terrible singing voice. God, that album, I have no clue. I mean, pick a song that doesn't require a large range, and then it's just got to be short. So maybe like a Nirvana song or something that just kind of stays in one little, you know, range.
Yeah.
Maybe if I could just do like, I don't know, like one, like just the intro to a Nirvana song or something. I don't know. It's
What
gotta be
about,
something
like,
short.
What about like Britney Spears' "Hit Me Baby One More Time"?
Definitely not.
I feel like that goes with a Muay Thai theme of like hitting people.
I suppose so. You know what's funny? I bet Brody, like, well, he probably knows who Britney Spears is, but like, probably not familiar with a lot of the hits.
Right.
It's crazy. Nothing makes me feel old more than like being around these young kids. Do you remember when Lucas didn't know who Avril Lavigne was?
Yeah, that hurt.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
oh man.
Yeah. Okay. This one comes from Vince, since Brody asked the last one. Besides Brody, who has been the best striker you've coached?
Ooh. Pure striking, MMA striking. What are we thinking?
No restrictions.
Ooh, okay. I mean, dude, there's just so many good options here. We've got so many talented guys. You know, we've got Ty, we've got Josh Donahue. I mean, there's just like a bunch of OGs at the gym. Oh, that's a hard one. Vince isn't a bad striker himself. Man, I hate to narrow it down to one, but
I know that's why I think why Vince asked it, so that way you have to do something you hate. I guess you don't have to. You look like you're like incredibly nervous right now.
I mean, I'm just like I'm bouncing around. You know what? Those were the first two guys I mentioned. Let's give them a tie. No, I hate to do it because I'm leaving out like Rico and like there's a lot of good strikers. Maybe it's recency bias because I just watched him crack pads the other day, but man, Ty is nice with it.
Ty is nice with it. I think that's a good answer.
Yeah,
so
and he's
Tyron,
a great coach, and being a good coach makes you better at striking. You know, so like
there you go, Tyron. You got the top notch. So, speaking of Tyron, he also has some questions for you. Tyron's first question is, which combat sports fighter do you least like?
oh, that's a good one. Oh man, like who is not okay? Well, I shouldn't say that actually. I believe he was accused of this, but it wasn't. I'm just trying to think of people who are like bad people. We can edit this out if this is totally off base, but didn't Phil Baroni kill his girlfriend?
No, that was one. Oh no, I don't know. I don't know anything about Phil Baroni's.
I'm pretty sure that like recently, dude, maybe now I'm scared that I'm totally off base with that. And he's just like a good dude chilling somewhere.
I don't know how good a
Oh,
dude he is.
I got a great one for you. What's his name? Kid on Tough, beat up his girlfriend.
John Copenhaver, War Machine.
Yes, War Machine.
Yeah, that's who I was just saying.
Yeah, no, that dude, he's a piece of shit. I don't like him.
Yeah, he's in jail.
Yeah. Oh, wait, I got one worse. Oh, this is super old school. You know Joe Son?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was in Austin Powers.
Yeah, he was.
What did he do?
Bad things, dude.
Okay.
Look up the story. It's like
I don't know what to.
it's bad. Let's just say he went to jail for doing something real bad, and then mysteriously his cellie died, and yeah, he's not a good dude. So yeah, I'm not a fan of War Machine, and I don't like Joe Son.
So there you go. Those are good answers. Let's see. Who has surprised you the most with their growth as a fighter from when they started until now?
God, that's also so difficult because we have so many guys.
Well, just think about like who like sucked the most, who doesn't suck anymore. So you're just picking out who like at first like,
but there's like
was trash.
There's a lot of people who came in who, you know, just because striking something that no one's good at initially were not good and got really good. You know what I mean? Like,
okay. Well, I think I know who it is.
I can spit some.
Could I offer you?
Yeah.
Is it Jesse Sadu?
Oh my God, Jesse's a great pick. Dude, we have so many like Jesse, Tom McCarthy. I mean, Lucas when he came in was like not.
Yeah, but I feel like Tom McCarthy and Lucas look like athletes. Like Jesse doesn't.
I mean, fair enough, but like.
It's also Jesse's question.
I mean, yeah, dude, we've had so many. I mean, literally everyone. Like, there's some people who have somewhat more natural ability. Maybe they're able to have that looseness and some of that pop a little bit earlier on. Some people naturally understand position a little bit better, but like everyone sucks initially. So to go from that to like any type of good is just massive growth. So just look at like who's good and how fast did they get there. So, you know, Jesse's in that boat. Brody even, you know.
Brody probably was good right away.
He wasn't bad by any stretch, but like no one's good when they start.
Yeah, you're not good. Like it's like I think the pace of learning maybe.
I mean, he went from like a regular athletic kid to 2-sport champion in what? How long's he been training? He's 21, so 4 years.
So yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like he would be the opposite. If it was like 12 years, you'd be like, man, it took a long time. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh, I thought it was how quickly did that growth occur?
Well, I guess just most with their growth. So it could be quickly or it could be how much.
Just overall. Dude, that's an impossible question to answer. I'm sorry, Jesse, but I'm impressed with all of you.
Here, let's slide to Jesse's second question.
Okay.
How disappointed are you with the fight team when they don't understand your analogies?
It depends on the analogy. So, one that they all roasted me for pretty badly was I was talking about a hypotenuse. Like you guys
This is what he brought up. to me. This was the example he brought up.
You guys should have all known what a hypotenuse was. Bob was talking about like how fighters, like tall fighters, will sometimes change their level to match a shorter fighter. And he's like, explaining it in various ways. And I was like, dude, I got the perfect analogy. I was like, hey guys, you need to fight on the hypotenuse, right? Makes sense.
Yeah.
They were all like, oh, well, look at you. And they just roasted me pretty hard for it. Now, with that said, I have had some things that were pretty out there, okay? So
Okay, hold on. But this jumps right back into the value of having Josh Polance on as
yeah, dude, just 2 days ago, I was like, oh, bro, I got the perfect way to explain this. And he was like, nah, dude.
Well, like, so on a prior episode, I don't know when this one will air, but on a prior episode, we were talking about, like, the value of Polance and stuff, and like some of his like other things, and the fact that he's a special education teacher, so he can help relay your message to the fight team with those skills.
To be fair to the fighters, I mean, it just clicked in my head so well, and like for people who did get it, it made sense. But like, I had an analogy about head movement and like valence shells and atoms and how the electrons move in it, and just like how we can change the probability of your head or an electron being in any one place at any given time. And I was like, that's such a good analogy. And like so many people just didn't get it. So like, yeah, I get where they're coming from. Sometimes I've got some wild stuff. I'll, bust out some music theory. We'll talk about polyrhythms and stuff.
Yeah,
and
I don't get that.
I mean, that one's on me.
It's like a square, but you put a triangle over it, and then I'm like,
well, that's the visual representation of it, yeah. And then you can use those patterns to create. It doesn't matter, but
all right. That's all good. Okay, so, from Brittney, let's go back. Brittney sent in a good amount of questions, and they're pretty good. So, what's the best thing you took away from fighting in Thailand?
Ooh. Oh man, the first thing that pops in my head is to check low kicks.
That's probably it.
Like that, I think that's really important. So I only ended up going 3 rounds because I finished the kid. But like, if I had to go 5, I'm not sure I would have done so well towards the end there. Like my legs were rough at the end. That fight's floating around YouTube. You can watch it. I got kicked in the legs probably like 100 times. I didn't check a single one. I also couldn't walk for 2 weeks after that fight. So like, I won, but did I really? You know. So that's one thing for sure, right? Like I was definitely heavy boxing style, and then I was like, I need to learn to check kicks. So definitely defending low kicks is an important thing to do. I think also just like, and really this is the message that I've kind of like picked up from being removed from fighting in general. But like I came out of my first fight retirement after boxing to go do that because I had that opportunity in Thailand. And I just like didn't care nearly as much. You know what I mean? Like when I was boxing, all I wanted to do was be, collegiate national champ. Like, and I cared about it so much. And I had so much undue worry, and just stress that I put on myself for no reason that absolutely did not help me. And then when I fought in Thailand, I was like, I don't really care. Like, first of all, I'm super sick, right? Like, yeah. And secondly, like, I'm just fighting some dude, out like near the Cambodian border somewhere. Like,
yeah.
Let's just fight. And like when you don't care, it just allows you to be so much more free.
Yeah.
So I think that's also a good takeaway. And also just like to take the opportunities that are presented to you. I was done fighting. I was like, listen, man, like no more getting hit in the head. No more of all these like super hard fight camps on my body. But I had that opportunity, and I'm really glad that I took it. So I would say I'll give you 3. Check low kicks. Don't worry about things as much. And oh God, what did I just say? Take opportunities.
All right, cool. All right, well, that kind of like, don't worry about things as much. That might feed into this question. So I got a question from AJ. Mm-hmm. How should you deal with doubts and emotions leading into a fight?
Oh man. Okay, so I'm actually a good person to talk to about this because that was like my biggest downfall as a fighter is that, I was not good at controlling my mind going into it, and partially because what we talked about, where I cared a lot, and I'm not saying you shouldn't care a lot. Like you should want to win. If you don't want to win, that's a problem. Do you remember we were at a fight where Bob's son was fighting?
Awesome.
And his opponent beforehand, like at the fighters meeting and stuff, we heard him saying like, yeah, it's just about like who has the most fun. And it's like, that's not really.
I cornered him that fight.
Yeah.
I cornered. It was me and Bob cornering Austin, and Bob was like, "Mike, go tell him this," and I'm like, "Bob, like you go tell him. It's your kid."
Well, Austin dusted that kid off in like 30 seconds.
Yeah,
like,
we didn't have to go between.
Brutal knockout. And that goes to show you, like, you know, just having fun. That's not what it's about, you know.
Yeah.
I would say that one, to have an appropriate, like, scale, I guess is the right word for it, like, of what that fight means in your life, you know what I mean? And like, I had fights that I lost and I was just devastated, and like, it just doesn't matter to me now, you know what I mean? And especially as an amateur, like, even if you go pro, like, those fights just, I don't want to say they don't matter, but like, they don't matter nearly as much as you think. So
Yeah.
one, just like keep that in perspective, right? Like, it's okay. You have to accept the fact that you might lose, you might get knocked out. And I was always like so afraid of those things that it was crippling. Another thing is that, you know, no one really told me when I was competing, that you and I have really like kind of, you know, clamored to, and you've especially done a good job of reiterating this to me. I believe you got it from that book, is that those feelings are valuable. Those feelings are important, you know, like that's what's fueling you. So I would oftentimes try to push those feelings aside instead of embracing them, you know, and you can't beat the sympathetic nervous system, you know what I mean? Like, that response is coming. And I certainly got better at it over time, just through experience. I want to say like about 10 fights in, I got to a point where I was like, okay, like I'm not getting like unmanageably nervous anymore. So that was good. The other thing, my coach, Jack, told me right before my first fight, I'm like about to get in the ring, and he goes, "Hey, have fun in there." And that's super important too, is that like, you got to have fun when you're doing this, you know, like that's like, you should only be fighting if you like to fight. And sometimes it's really easy to forget that you like fighting because you're so wrapped up in all these negative and stressful emotions. Right. And so just keeping that in mind and being like, yeah, dude, we're scrapping. It's fun. Like, I've already accepted that the worst thing that could happen. You know, I could lose, I could get hurt, I could get knocked out, whatever. But this is super awesome. So, you know, hopefully that kind of wraps up my thoughts on that.
That's pretty good. I you know, think that's a great answer. That's gonna run me into you know, I'm gonna do a question from me. Okay,
bring it on.
So like, dealing with like emotions and doubts and things like that, you know, that ultimately usually gets wrapped up in the nerves. Nervous. Like, are you nervous? Right. Are you nervous when you corner fighters?
Not anymore, usually. When I started, you know, cornering you, I was very nervous because I was still younger. I was still just coming off of fighting. And I don't think I had as healthy of an understanding or grasp of, you know, the emotions that go into it. And, you know, here I am, like 23 years old, getting this opportunity to get directly into coaching pro fighters. I'm like, yo, this is nuts. I don't want to mess this up. You know, I want your career to go well. And, you know, I all the things that I was nervous about for myself, I was even more nervous about for like you and, you know, Jonas and Cody and Grossface and all the dudes of that, you know, era. And I was like so terrified because, like, I've been beat up in fights before, right? Like, it's not that real. It's like, you're getting, I've had fights where I'm like getting cracked with overhands, and I'm like, yeah, dude, whatever. And like I don't care at all in the moment, and I'm just imagining like my teammates or friends or family seeing that, and they're probably like, oh no, and I'm like, oh, like it's just not that real. So then I was on the other side of things where, like, I know it's not that real getting beat up, but also I'm seeing my friends getting beat up, and I don't like that, you know? So I definitely used to get super, super nervous. You know, that's just like, that's not good for anybody. It's not, makes me worse of a coach. That energy leaks out to the fighters. And I don't know if it's because I have a healthier grasp on this nowadays, or I've just been in it so long and I'm jaded or whatever, but like, I don't really get that nervous before fights, to be honest. Like, I'll get like mildly, like, I really hope that we get a win in this fight, you know, like maybe it's an important fight. But like, usually those important fights I'm super confident for. So like, for example, we just had two fighters who, you know, are like very, very dedicated to turn pro, you know, Lucas and Brittney, and winning your first pro fight is like kind of pretty important, you know what I mean? Yeah. And they both, right. And they both fought like skilled opponents, you know what I mean? Like their opponents had a path to victory.
Right.
With that said, I was like, maybe like a tiny bit more anxious than I would be for just like an 0-0, someone who's like, oh, bucket list fight. I mean, like I know it doesn't matter long term, but I'm also so confident in their preparation, and especially for them, kind of like the film work, like that. Like I was so beyond confident that like, nah, I don't really get nervous anymore.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I need to maybe work on that. I'm super nervous.
Dude, I've seen you way more nervous in corners than when you were fighting. Like way more.
Yeah, I mean, you just pretty much nailed it. Like,
Yeah.
like when I'm fighting, it's me. And here goes the thing though that like might be a little bit different. Like you were talking about like, oh, seeing your friends get hurt and stuff. Like I have no problem watching them get hurt.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I cornered my brother. I have no problem watching him get hurt.
Right.
I have no problem watching my dear friends who I coach get hurt. You know what I mean? My problem comes into how are their feelings going to be after.
And that's crazy because normally you and I are kind of like opposite on this, but I'm just like, they'll get over it. Like it's not that real. I just like don't want to see them unconscious in the cage,
Well, like, so for example, like, Jonas took a pretty bad knockout, right? And I was concerned, but I wasn't as concerned. I was concerned because he was out for a bit, but I wasn't as concerned as I was with like, oh man, that was his pro debut. Like, how's that going to affect him? Like, how's his spirits going to be? Like, you know what I mean? Type of thing. But yeah, I need to, apparently I need to keep listening to my coaches and learn a little bit about that because I'm sure maybe some of those nerves are leaking to the fighters and that's not good.
But also keep in mind, like, maybe it's literally just that like time removed from competing, because keep in mind, like, I was done competing when I was 22, 23. It doesn't matter, somewhere around there. And I did have that other Thai fight, but like, in my head I was like, I'm gonna be a coach, you know what I mean? Like,
And you did jiu-jitsu tournaments.
I mean, yeah, but that's just like for fun, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but like I didn't compete like for real. You fought in what, 2019?
Yeah.
So I was done fighting for many, many years at that point. You know what I mean? Like,
And I've been competing in jiu-jitsu like as recently as December.
Yeah. So like, you're still kind of in that competitor mindset. So maybe it's just time away from competition. I don't know. But
yeah, maybe time away from competition you care about too, because like you said, like you were like the Muay Thai fight, and like when I brought up the grappling matches, you were like, yeah, but you approach that with I feel like the same like I just played pickleball 2 weeks ago, like probably about the same I cared about that.
Yeah, dude.
You know what I mean?
Dude, that was my greatest asset in jiu-jitsu tournaments. Is I would go in, and having fought like a whole bunch before that, I would be in white belt, blue belt divisions with these guys who like they may have never competed before, and they're like, oh my god, there's combat sport, and they're freaking out, and I'm like, I couldn't care less. And so I would be in there smooth, and I would beat dudes who were probably technically better than me just because I was just like about it. Right. And also like I was about it, you know what I mean?
Right.
There's definitely some dudes who are involved in jiu-jitsu who maybe like wouldn't be good at fighting.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, you're like smashing my face? That's not going to bother me. Like,
Yeah.
oh, you have me in a guillotine? Well, it's not on. I'm not going to tap.
Right.
Oh, that's led to some other problems.
Yeah,
but...
now you're getting neck surgery.
Yup.
Yeah. Maybe you're right. Like, and like I'm still like I'm not done.
Right.
I'm still going.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's lighten it up a little bit. Let's do something a more funny question. I don't know if this is a funny question. I don't understand this question. It is from Brody.
Okay.
I just feel like there might be hidden meaning behind it that I'm not on the inside.
Okay.
Who on the fight team currently do you think would make the best soup?
I don't think there's any.
I didn't know if that was something from the chef seminar because I wasn't at the chef seminar.
No, dude, I think he's just asking funny questions.
All right, well then I would like to say this question has just rose up like 22 spots on the funny list.
That's hilarious.
All right, so who do you think would make the best soup?
Okay.
And go ahead. And just who do you think would make the best soup?
Oh man, the first thing that popped in my mind was Rico, just because he's got like,
And we're gonna go fighters only, no coaches.
Okay, because he's got that Creole background. And I'm like, oh man, I could see him making some fire, Creole style, soup.
There's a second question. In which soup do you think he or she would make?
Okay, well there you go. That's for Rico. Who else I think is good at cooking? I could see. Who else knows food?
Well, I think the fact that Brody asked kind of like makes me think he knows how to make soup.
I just assume that anyone under the age of like
doesn't know how to do shit, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I got. You know what?
Like, you haven't spent enough time eating, you know what I mean? Like,
You're not old enough.
I'm trying to think who else. Who else strikes me as like they'd make some good food. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I'm just so spoiled when it comes to food. Like, my wife is so good at cooking that just like
Yeah.
anything else. Like, dude, there are restaurants that I don't get. Like, I don't like any Italian restaurants, and people are like, "Oh, you've been to this place? It's so good." And I'm like, dude,
I don't
get
like
that
Italian
at
restaurants
home.
either. Like the best Italian I've ever had is from home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, do you remember that night that we made pasta?
Oh yeah.
I'm like, dude, like,
I mean, I remember.
yeah, like,
I was there.
no one's making pasta the way that Marissa's making pasta,
No.
you know? So, like,
Okay, well then here's the bonus. Who wouldn't you want to make you soup?
oh. Let me think here. Who would be bad at making soup? I could see. I could see Lucas.
Lucas?
I could see Lucas or Luke Martin. Like,
Dude, they probably suck at making soup.
they got a pot of just water and they like.
Bro, I can see it too now. Them together. Imagine them together like,
Yeah,
oh, no,
dude.
man, maybe we throw some of this in.
And they put like a couple spices in, but like no salt. And then they just put like some, I don't know.
I think they would be like putting stuff in and then be like, no, let's take that out. We should do a segment.
Yeah.
We should do an
Cooking with fighters.
LTYC short, The Lukes Make Soup. The Lukes Make Soup. Oh my God, that's good. So that was a good question, Brody. All right. Okay, from Brittney. Would you rather have the ability to speak to animals or be able to speak any language?
Oh my God, that's so difficult.
That's an easy question, and if you're struggling, you're dumb.
I mean, maybe. Nah, it's actually easy. Animals.
Yeah, it's easy.
Yeah.
One of them is one of them's impossible. One of them is possible.
Yeah, that's
Right?
true. I didn't even think of it like
So here's
that.
the thing: if you learn how to, so you just have to, you get one for free, right? So if you get to speak to animals for free, you can go learn the other languages. And it'd
Yeah,
be
that's a
very
good point.
difficult, but it's an attainable thing. And now every language, all right, that's not attainable, but like pick your balls.
And also, I was gonna say, like, if I could learn 5 languages, that covers 99% of what I need.
Right,
You know what I
right,
mean?
you know
Like, if
what I
I could
mean?
speak Spanish, Thai, Italian,
right.
German, French, or something like that covers the majority of like the traveling I plan on. Maybe Portuguese, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But animals for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's stay with Brittney. Will you bring back the hoop earrings?
Probably not. Mostly due to just like the practicality of it, you know. When you're training, you're popping them on and off, and like, you know, they get caught on things. Yeah, no, I was in a metal band for a long time, hair down to here, earrings. Yeah, that's probably not coming back.
Probably a no-go.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump. Since I'm still thinking about Lucas and Luke Martin making soup,
Yeah, dude.
I got a question from Lucas
Right on.
Siebert. What are the top 3 non-combat sports that could transition to MMA or striking?
Ooh, okay. I would say basketball, but that's not. There's a couple of reasons basketball. One is, and again, I don't know sports that well, but like the organization, the language around it, like Barry Robinson talks about, he uses a lot of analogies from basketball on how basketball players and coaches talk about the sport relative to how fighters talk about the sport, and how much more advanced their language is, and why that, you know, that's one of the, you know, influences on why I'm so specific in the language I use with our fighters and definitions. And also, you know, we discussed this on a past episode. We were talking about, you know, Josh Polance being a good coach and him coming from a basketball background. I think that basketball attracts the best athletes, and I don't want to say produces the best athletes, but like the people who do well in basketball are really good athletes. So I would say basketball's a really good one. I would say gymnastics.
Yeah.
Especially if you do it younger, you know, that just gives you the proprioception that you need to be good at, you know, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, things like that. and I think there is a certain amount of toughness that comes along with something like that that's going to carry over a lot. So basketball, gymnastics, man, sports.
What do you think about like soccer? Because like soccer is like the basketball of the rest of the world. Like the best athletes are playing soccer.
Yeah, but
Like if you're the best athlete from
I just feel like you're not getting enough like upper body coordination for it to translate as well as other sports.
okay,
Obviously the cardio you're going to get from that's going to be good, leg dexterity.
well, I just think like the same way that like basketball,
Oh
it's
yeah, like
athletic. It pulls the best athletes.
right,
Like
yeah.
soccer pulls them. I think the highest paid athlete is
It's got to be.
it's got to be soccer, right?
100%.
Yeah. So
I could see that, but I'm not going to put it in there. But also partially because I don't really like soccer. I don't like basketball either. But man, I'm gonna. All right, this isn't actually a sport, but and it's partially just because I've been like really getting back into this. But dude, I think playing drums, really playing any instrument, but playing drums, I think is a massive advantage. Like the understanding that you have of rhythm is just unparalleled if you understand that. And like, if you can kind of take some concepts about like changing time signatures and changing tempos, and even like the way that drums are like notated translates directly to striking. I think I've told you this before.
Oh, yeah.
But like when I was done boxing and I was like really getting into coaching and stuff, I would write striking combinations
like music.
like music, yeah. That way you can get the rhythm of certain things, and you can use different parts of the way that drum music's written. So like you see that like staff of music, and there's different notes, based on where it is on those lines. In drums, you're hitting different drums based on where it is on those lines. So each one of those notes could be either a different strike or a strike to a different target, and then the dynamics within music, so how loud it is, how soft. Especially in drums, you get various rudiments where maybe you have like a flam, which is like a small note with a big note like right next to it. And there's a famous clip of Mike Tyson talking about some fighter, I forget who it is. He was like, man, he takes 2 punches and he makes them 1. Like, who would ever think to do that? And that's a flam, you know what I mean? And again, I kind of talked about polyrhythms and ways that you can structure footwork drills along with defensive or offensive drills up top or with your lower body attacks, and ways that you can blend that and organize that, and taking something that's simple like hitting a drum and making it complex, right? By either how you hit it, the dynamics you hit it with, the tempos, everything that we kind of discussed, all those variables around it. Like that's kind of the way I really think about striking.
Yeah.
So is it a sport? No. But I think that's, it's helped me greatly.
I'm going to count it. That sounded incredibly impressive to me. Yeah, I really like that. All right. Would you throw out all of your Star Wars socks for a dinner with Bruce Lee?
Yes. I can buy more Star Wars socks. My mother-in-law gets them for me.
That was from Brittney, and she did not say that you could not repurchase said Star Wars socks.
Yeah, so. No, absolutely. I'd rather never wear Star Wars socks again to have dinner with Bruce Lee. Although, and this is kind of a bummer, like when I was younger, Bruce Lee obviously really like got me into martial arts, like a lot of people our age, unlike you. And obviously like huge Bruce Lee fan, and he was in a lot of ways influential in modern MMA and blending styles and stuff like that. And I grew up reading, I don't know where his book is. Yeah, I got some of his books, and influential on me when I was younger, especially. Not that long ago, I read a couple biographies about him, and the one I most recently read, it was like not surprising, but like he's just like a regular dude in a lot of ways, and he had a lot of the pitfalls that a lot of regular people might have, and especially like his like wanting of fame and like hanging out with Steve McQueen and cheating on his wife and just like stuff that I'm like, oh man, like I don't really like, that's not the Bruce Lee I had in my head as a young lad, which obviously when you're a kid and someone's like one of your idols, like you can see no wrong in them, and then when you grow up you're like, oh yeah, he's just a dude. So that's kind of unrelated, but I'd still, totally love to have dinner with Bruce Lee.
Nice. Sick. Yeah, that would be cool though. Still, all right. So let's get to know a little bit more about you outside of the gym here. What are your favorite podcasts?
Oh, interesting. I like Andrew Schultz. He's hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Spits some hot bars. I like. Certain Tim Ferriss podcasts are good.
Is that like more guest driven.
Yes.
Whereas like you're not listening to every Tim Ferriss, but if there's someone you want to hear from, you listen to that. Like that's how I am with like Rogan. Like,
yeah, me too.
Like I'm not listening to every Rogan, but like if like I don't know, like
someone I like is on.
yeah. If like Gordon Ryan's on, I'm like okay, I want to hear what he says.
Yeah,
no. Ben Askren. Oh, okay, I want to hear what he says.
That's absolutely how I am with that, and with Rogan too. Like I listened to Rogan back when I was like significantly younger. Like back when it started. So like when I was in college and stuff, and that. He was one of the first people talking a lot about like, brain trauma, and like I was in boxing where we're sparring hard all the time, and that like kind of got me thinking like, hey, I probably shouldn't do this. So like, that was a good influence at that time. Over time, I feel like he's become a lot less like relatable, and like you said, I listen to very specific episodes just for like guests. But like Rogan, I'm like, take it or leave it. I'm trying to think what else off the top of my head. Sometimes I'll like dive into a subject. So like, I'll discover some like scientific thing. I'm like, oh, let me like find out more about this. You know what I mean?
Right. You like seek and destroy on subjects. You're like, all right, like So you find the podcast around the subject, not the other way around.
Right. Exactly. So yeah, that's kind of what I got for you.
Hey, that's cool. All right. So we're getting towards the nitty gritty end here. So this question is going to be from, I think we'll run 2 more questions.
Perfect.
This one's going to be from me. What keeps you going as a coach? Like what, cause sometimes I maybe go through like phases where I'm just like, not as fired up about it. Right. And I don't think anybody's carrying 100%. Right.
Oh no. Never.
So what like gets you out of bed in the morning to be a coach? What makes you put in the part of coaching that is not your job? Like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What's your passion for coaching?
I think one is that like I love this sport, or not just this sport of MMA, but like combat sports and like my portion of it, the stand-up part. Like I love that, and I love my role in that as the coach, like really honing in on the technical part of things and the growth side of things. So like I'm enamored by it, in love with it. I want to learn more about it all the time. I also just love being able to teach that to someone, like that's so rewarding, being like, hey, here's something that I've discovered about fighting. Let me impart this upon you. Like you see them like conceptually understand it, and then you see them maybe like understand it physically, like they're like, oh, I kind of understood what you meant about like snapping a punch or something, but now I feel it. And then being able to like do it in sparring, and then do it in a fight, and especially as fighters progress through the career and hit higher and higher levels, like being a part of that progression and seeing them grow. And I've taken a lot from martial arts and fighting that's not just martial arts. Like it's just enriched my life in a lot of ways. And, I'd really like to, be able to do that for other people. I think that's an important part of like martial arts philosophy, is being part of that chain of passing down knowledge. And, I just want other people to be able to benefit the same way that I have from it, whether they stay in it forever or they're only in it for a short period of time or whatever. But like, I want to be a part of that. And then also kind of like on more of a negative side, I have had coaches in the past that have been, disappointing to me in various ways. And I don't want to be disappointed to any of our fighters in those same ways. I've had, we've talked about things like this off pod, but I don't want to, I don't want to be a disappointment to any of those kids,
Yeah, for sure.
So on those days when you're feeling like, man, I'm just like not feeling, I'm like, hey, this is when it matters most,
Yeah. Well, that's really good. So here goes a good one, I think, to wrap it up on. And I'm excited, since this is Don't Tell Will version 1.0, and hopefully we'll still be doing this podcast for years to come. And maybe we'll be on like a Don't Tell Will 11.0. And I hope to re-ask this question then. What is your greatest accomplishment as a coach?
Oh my God, that's so difficult.
So here goes what you can do. It's hard to put a pin in the one thing. Why don't you give me some
I'll just spitball some out.
Yeah, just spitball some out.
One, I think, is, I think that and I hate to say like me as a coach, because fighting is such an individual sport and I can influence people, but like it's not really on me. But I think that just your career in general, you know, and like hopefully I was able to play some part in that. Like, dude, you know, you got to the like a really, really high level, and you know, you literally got to a high level fighting in Bellator, you know what I mean? And also you got to a really high level skill wise where like, you know, there were the majority of guys in the UFC at your weight class when you were in your prime, I felt very confident about you fighting them. You know what I mean? And like to have that happen when I still didn't know like half as much as I know now,
Yeah.
I think is like pretty, you know, cool.
You know, when I hear you like discussing like positions and theories and stuff like that, I'm like, yo, where was that for
Yeah,
me?
dude. Yeah.
I was out here doing regular shit.
Yeah, dude, like the film work that I did for you was so basic compared to like what I'm doing. Like I'm like almost embarrassed that I was that bad back in the day. But like,
Well, you start
it's just,
somewhere. Well, first off, it wasn't bad. You start somewhere, right? Like, imagine
Yeah,
how
it
bad
was-
we're going to talk about, like, how
Right.
we are right now when we're, like, in our 40s. and
Right, yeah,
stuff.
exactly.
Like, yeah, we were just stupid idiots.
but yeah, I would say overall, like, you know, from that kind of time period, like the early part of me coaching, I would say your career, that's just like a massive, like, and again, I hate to say accomplishment because it's not my accomplishment, it's your
Oh,
accomplishment.
it is your
but, like,
accomplishment.
well, my role in it
From
was
the coaching.
was an
Like,
accomplishment.
as far as the question's concerned, like, from your perspective, that is.
Yeah.
You know?
So, you know, I'll take that. I think then kind of in like our, you know, modern era of our gym, there's so much. I would say on the striking side of things, taking, you know, Brody from a kid who, you know, hadn't really done a lot of combat sports at all. I think I guess he did a little jiu-jitsu, but like, you know, no real striking, coming into the gym at 18 and, you know, just working super hard. And now he's a kickboxing champ and, you know, TBA Muay Thai champ. And, you know, he's about to like dedicate his life to this.
Yeah.
You know, and having exciting fights and dominant fights along the way, you know, and that's just strictly in striking, you know what I mean? Like that kind of helps, like, one, I think that's super cool, but also that kind of helps like reinforce that I kind of know what I'm talking about striking wise. Cause like, what if all these guys are winning MMA fights despite my striking? You know what I mean? Like,
Dude, I have that feeling sometimes, too. I'm like, what if it's like, you know, like...
right. Like
What if I'm actually, like, they're so much better and I'm actually holding them back?
yeah, like what if the only reason that our guys are winning fights is because it's MMA and they can do things outside of striking, you know what I mean? And what if I'm just so like, you know, biased in how I'm watching them that I'm like, oh, they're doing that well, and everyone else is watching like, dude, they suck. So, so that kind of like helps reinforce that in my mind. And then, you know, some other things I'm really proud of. You know, we took Brittney from 0 MMA fights,
Yes.
all the way up to going pro. You know, like super, super proud of that. You know, similar trajectory with Lucas. He obviously had a little bit of training, you know, ahead of that, but you know, I'd say that we took him through the majority of his amateur career into, you know, pro, and you know, I'm really excited to see where that goes. And they're kind of like the, you know, most accomplished you know, fighters we've had that we started with at, you know, like
Yeah, the lower...
from the lower ends of amateurs all the way up into pro. Not that I'm not impressed with all of our fighters and the growth they've had. Oh, that's another thing, like going back to Jesse's question, when I see people go from like maybe like having no combat sport experience and, you know, maybe not like looking super athletic to being, you know, a good fighter, maybe an undefeated Muay Thai fighter, like that's like very, very rewarding and super cool to me. And also like using Jesse as an example, right? So like not only has Jesse become like a good fighter, despite like not, you know, no offense, Jesse, being like the most athletic dude in the world. And also it's not like he's starting this at like 18, you know what I mean? Like, Jesse's what, like 30 or something? But also Jesse is a perfect example because Jesse understands like our system, you know what I mean? Like Jesse will be a really good coach one day, you know, like, I mean, he's already a good coach and he gets that. And so again, being able to impart that knowledge and seeing that growth is also just like huge. So even someone like Tom McCarthy, right? Like, you know, he's, you know, he obviously had to move away. So I only got to see like, you know, the beginning of his journey, but like seeing how far he came in such a short period of time was like really fun for me. And that's like a big like accomplishment for me as a coach, you know? So man, there's just so many, and really like anyone who is like dedicated and sticks around in our system, like they get better. And like that I think is what I'm like most proud of.
Nice. I think that's a good answer. And you know, you did kind of give like a roundabout so you didn't have to pinpoint anything.
Yeah.
So maybe when I re-ask it, like, you know, like we won't like. So what I was hoping to see is like just like how much more you accomplish, you know, that makes
Right.
like whatever today was like, you know, like a thing of the past. Right?
Well, I mean, even just like the answers we had today, you know what I mean? We're like, oh yeah, you know, taking like Brittney from 0 to, you know, winning her first pro fight. Maybe, you know, in a year or two, you ask me the same question. It's like, oh yeah, winning her first UFC fight, and then
Yeah.
maybe in a few years after that, it's like, oh, winning a UFC championship, or you know,
Yeah.
something like that. So,
Right.
I think we have a lot of room for growth. And
I do too.
We're
And
still
we
young
got
in the sport.
tons of time. Let's not take any of it for granted.
No,
right?
not at all.
All right, well, that was another great episode of Listen to Your Coaches, the Don't Tell Will 1.0 edition. Hopefully you guys got to know Will a little bit better here. And yeah, we look forward to more, and we'll keep running these back. These are exciting episodes for me.
Very fun.
You know, like, and I even got to throw a couple questions in. Yeah. I may have known the answers to my questions, but like, what am I going to do? You know? All right, that's it. We'll see you next time.